Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Arc podcast. Today we're going to be going through and talking about Bleacher Report's article that came out of one player that needs to be traded by every NBA team. So if you do enjoy this content, before we get on into it, do me a huge favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below on the player that you believe should get traded. So without further ado, let's get right on into this. The first player I have on this list, we're just going to start alphabetically. We're going the Atlanta Hawks. I think you guys can all guess it. It's Trae Young. Trae Young is that player that, although he has brought so much to Atlanta, I think it's kind of ran its course. It is about time that they kind of move off, especially with these injuries he's had to start the season. He has been a player that seems a little not needed. The Atlanta Hawks are actually playing pretty well without him. Jalen Johnson has really come to fruition in being that number one piece, being that cornerstone to possibly build something really good here. Now, I do still think even if you move off of Trae Young, you still should look for a secondary star next to Jalen Johnson, of course, but that would all depend on the package that you get in return. Now, teams that could be looking at Trae Young, I could see, and we'll get into this, but a Hornets, Magic, or somebody like Sacramento. Now, why Sacramento? They love chasing names. The GM loves picking up names. You look at their roster right now: DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Russell Westbrook. Right? They love keeping players together that have name value that sell tickets, which is fair. Right? Makes a lot of sense. Go and get guys that will fill the stands. They've been tied to Ja Morant. So why not another exciting guard in Trae Young? Now, if you're the Hornets, why would you want Trae Young? This is as simple as LaMelo Ball for Trae Young, right? There would probably be some extra pieces involved, but it breaks down to as simple as that. If the Hornets are like, hey, we want to move off of LaMelo, we want something different, why not go get somebody that actually averages 28 a game? He's got value, clearly. And then lastly, the Magic. Just like I said, they need offense. And Trae Young, 28 a game, is offense. So, and he would fit pretty well alongside Paolo Banchero. I think that they need another center. Wendell Carter seems too small to be the starting center on a championship caliber team, but I think the Magic can figure it out, especially if they go get a guy like a Trae Young. Next up on this list, the Boston Celtics looking to move off of Anthony Simons. Now, Anthony is somebody that we knew as Celtics fans that he wasn't going to be there long term. He is somebody that we traded for, expected his value to be inflated a little bit because Tatum was going to be out, and then we trade him at the deadline. He is somebody that's only 26 years old. He's shooting 40% from the three-point line. So if you can kind of send him away, he's also an expiring contract. So if you can kind of send him away and get something, that would be kind of ideal. Also, he could be tied to getting a piece back that the Celtics actually really need, and that's a center. There are some centers on this board that could make sense for the Celtics to go out and get. And I'm going to get into those guys as this video goes on, so I don't want to spoil them. But there are definitely some teams that might, Dallas could be a team that could use an Anthony Simon because they need a guard. Orlando, he's been tied to Orlando in the past. It just makes sense for Orlando. And you're going to hear Orlando with these guards. All the guards that I bring up today, Orlando's probably going to be listed because they need offense. And a lot of the guards that are available are instant offense. Next up here, I have the Brooklyn Nets. Nicholas Claxton is that guy. You could also say honorable mention be Michael Porter Jr. But inflating, if you could go through and look at the teams that need centers, you look at the Lakers. Yes, they have DeAndre Ayton, but they could probably use some center depth. The Celtics need a center because they're starting Neemias Queta. LaMelo Ball doesn't really have an elite center to play with the Hornets. So if the Hornets stay with LaMelo, then you could be looking at, them going and getting somebody like a Nicholas Claxton. And even though like the Warriors could be a team, they need a center. They don't really have center play. They have guys like Trace Jackson Davis on their roster. They have Quentin Post on their roster, but like, it's not like Nicholas Claxton would be a game changer for the Warriors. So I could definitely see them looking to, and also I think the Warriors have something that the Nets might want, being Jonathan Kuminga. So if there's some sort of Kuminga but a healed for Nicholas Claxton swap, I think that could happen. I also think Nicholas Claxton probably wants to move off. He probably wants to start winning games. I mean, why not send him to the Warriors? You go get your young piece in Kuminga, because it's not working with Claxton. He's not that young. He's not a young superstar. Not saying Kuminga is, but Kuminga he's got potential. Whereas I think you've seen everything you need to see with Nicholas Claxton. I don't think we've seen everything we need to see with Kuminga. Moving on from Nicholas Claxton, though, we're going to talk about LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball is somebody that I have preached on this channel. I think he needs a new start. I want to see what he can do with a legitimate center. Like I just said, him playing with a guy like a Nicholas Claxton, I'd like to see him play with somebody like, even like a Bam Adebayo with the Miami Heat. I'd like to see him play with somebody like, I don't know, you send him over to Dallas, because they have a plethora of big men over there, where he's playing with a Derek Lively and Cooper Flagg. I'd like to see him play with, who knows, a Jared Allen of the world, a Miles Turner. If he could go to the Bucks somehow, if the Bucks could make a deal for LaMelo, I would love to see that happen. He could get stronger with Giannis, because we've seen Giannis put on muscle and the ability to strengthen the body, right? So now you have a guy that can teach LaMelo to do the same thing. Now, I'm not saying LaMelo needs to put on 30 pounds of muscle, but he needs to strengthen those ankles. Those ankles are just torturing his career. And also, Charlotte probably wants to move off of him also, because it's ran its course. Similar to the Trae Young thing. I think we've kind of seen everything we need to see with the unorthodox player that LaMelo Ball is with the Hornets. Now we want to see what he's like if he's put into a proper role where... Now, I don't think you should change his game at all. I think he is a free flow player that gets into his flow state, and he is like unstoppable because he's so unorthodox. He's also a better defender than Trae Young, so that with all these teams that are looking to trade these guards, you're almost like 1A, 1Bing all these players. So giving those slight edges to the LaMelo Balls of the world, it's a big thing. Next up here, Chicago Bulls. The name that I thought of immediately when I thought of Chicago Bulls was Kobe White. Now, Bleacher Report here has Ayo Dosunmu as that guy. I think the one player they should trade would be Kobe White, because, of course, you're tied to Anthony Davis. And even if you don't get Anthony Davis, if you get a Daniel Gafford of the world, or even if you somehow get a Derek Lively of the world for a Kobe White, but because you're tied to Anthony Davis, Kobe White provides more value than Ayo, right? So you don't have to give up as much. I also think Patrick Williams should be on this. Patrick Williams, if somehow the Bulls can manage to get off of Patrick Williams' contract, that would be phenomenal. I would assume it would be more of a buyout situation, or even just running its course, letting him go in free agency. But man, that is a bummer of a deal for the Bulls. Ayo, though, I think he could just add some bench depth to a lot of teams. I think, the Warriors could use somebody like Ayo just coming off that bench. Teams that lack depth. I'm trying to think of, maybe like the Cavs could use somebody like Ayo. Because they have an influx of, they got Lonzo Ball there, but, maybe another guard right behind Donovan Mitchell wouldn't be too bad. So speaking of the Cavaliers, let's talk about their player, and it is Jared Allen. Jared Allen is that big man center, of course, part of that main four for the Cavs being Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. Now, it's just this is in the theory of it's not working out, they need to move. So if you're looking to move, you're likely going to keep Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. So you're going to move Darius Garland and Jared Allen. Like I just said, there's an influx of guards that are looking to be traded. There's Trae Young. There's that LaMelo Ball. There's an Anthony Simons, for example. Throw Darius Garland into that mix. Possibly an Ayo or a Kobe White into that mix. There's a lot of guards, but a lot of teams don't need guards. So the likely player to be traded would be Jared Allen, because a lot of teams could use center. Like I brought up, the Celtics, the Lakers, the Warriors, the Mavericks have a decent amount of centers, but if they end up packaging a lot of those guys away just to make deals happen, like Anthony Davis and Gafford are tied for them to be moved, meaning that they could look for a backup center or even a starting center you pair alongside Lively. So the Cavs, Jared Allen. I'd like to see him over with the Celtics, obviously being a Celtics fan, but I don't think that's going to happen because the Celtics have the Cavs number. I think that they would ship him out west. So them shipping him out west means it screams Lakers. And yeah, the Lakers, they got some pieces there that Austin Reeves, if Darius Garland and Jared Allen both get moved, who knows? Maybe Austin Reeves would be a decent piece that the Lakers would move to get Jared Allen. And then you have Austin Reeves, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and whatever else you got for Darius Garland. That's just interesting off the top of my head kind of thinking. Team number 7 here, it is the Dallas Mavericks, their player being Daniel Gafford. Kind of similar, almost the same exact thing I was just talking about with Jared Allen, you can apply to Daniel Gafford. A long rim running center that works for a lot of teams. Works for the Warriors, works for, the Celtics, works for the Lakers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now Gafford, him being more likely to go to the East, like a Celtics, could make things interesting as well. The Celtics just need any center that they can kind of get their hands on right now. Neemias Queta clearly is not the future of the Celtics center core. So then you go and look at, he could be a backup, sure, but they need that starting center. They're gearing up for next season. And don't get me wrong, Celtics are third in the East. So they might be gearing up for this season. Go get a guy like Daniel Gafford or Jared Allen or whoever they can get their hands on. Walker Kessler's probably going to be on this list. I have not gotten that far, though. We'll get to that. But Gafford could provide some interesting, because clearly after the whole AD Luka trade, the Mavericks are probably going to do a little bit of a reset here. Conserve those assets, flip players, and just rebuild around Cooper Flagg. Because, of course, they had that championship team, and it seems like they might be moving away from that slightly. The Denver Nuggets are next up. Zeke Naji is a player that is listed here. Honestly, I have the Denver Nuggets winning the championship. I think that they have a ton of depth. I love what they did in the offseason, going and getting guys like Cam Johnson. I don't really think they need to mess with the roster too much. I think that Zeke Naji's cool, but it's just kind of like almost like a scroll pass player. So I'm going to move off. We're going to talk about the Detroit Pistons and their player being Caris LeVert. Caris LeVert doesn't seem like he's necessarily needed a whole lot on this roster. You pair him alongside a guy like Tobias Harris, and you can get involved with making that move that could really push the needle for the Detroit Pistons, as this seems like a year that they're kind of going all in. So, yeah, Tobias Harris is a cool locker room guy, but you also have an interesting piece there in Jaden Ivey. You might be able to make a big splash move for one of these disgruntled players. If Giannis gets moved, can you get in the mix and go get Giannis? And you have a Cade Cunningham and Giannis duo that would be quite interesting to watch how they would work. If Ja Morant, I don't think they'd go for Ja Morant, but I'm just saying, like, stars in general that are disgruntled. If the Lakers look to move off Austin Reeves, could the Pistons get involved to go get a playmaker? There's like I just said with the Pistons. I mean, with the Cavs, would they be interested in one of those four of the core? A Darius Garland, a Donovan Mitchell for the right price. I don't think that would happen east to east like that in the same division and all that, but that's just spitballing names. Anthony Davis, could they get involved in that? And you have Anthony Davis in Detroit playing with Cade Cunningham. Like, really, is Anthony Davis's value that high? Could a package of like a Karis LeVert, Tobias Harris, and Jaden Ivey kind of get the deal done? I feel like you're getting close. Maybe you need to throw a pick or two in there, but I mean, you might be getting kind of close. Next up here, the Golden State Warriors. This is the most obvious answer of all. It is Jonathan Kuminga. It's just like, it's gotten exhausting seeing how long that this has been dragged out. I'm surprised he's still not traded. I guess we're waiting for December 15th, probably when a lot more players are available, it being the 13th when I'm recording this video. But overall, Kuminga got to be a guy that got to get moved. Whether it's for a Nicholas Claxton, whether it's to the Kings for a Sabonis, like we've seen rumored in the past. I don't know. Maybe the Heat move off of Bam Adebayo. Maybe the Mavericks go look at, giving Gafford to the Warriors or something like that for a Kuminga exchange. Something is going to change here. Vucevic for the Bulls, and then they go get Jonathan Kuminga. Something is going to happen, and it feels like it has to happen because both sides do not want anything to do with one another. Next up here, the Houston Rockets. Their player is Fred VanVleet. Now, this is intriguing because he's injured. He's going to be out. So that would be meaning that the team would be trading for him for next season. So I don't know if a lot of teams are going to be interested in something like that. I think that they would be more interested in somebody like a Dorian Finney-Smith, or even if the Rockets would want to touch Alperen Sengun. Maybe they go in the Giannis sweepstakes and they say, hey, we have this young, super good center here. Would you want him? And I don't know. We're just spitballing ideas. Fred VanVleet, though, if he were to go elsewhere, I think a team that could use, I would like to say somebody like the Clippers could use a guard like him, but no. The Lakers could always use guard depth, it seems like. I think the Magic would be a good thing, but they're looking to win now, not next year. I just don't know if there's a lot of fit for Fred VanVleet elsewhere. So I'm just going to kind of move past them. Let's talk about the Indiana Pacers. Benedict Mathurin seems like the right name here. Inflating his trade value. You're waiting for next season is like whether they're going to do this retool or a full rebuild, because of course you don't have Miles Turner. Tyrese Halliburton's out for the year. The roster is kind of in this funky spot where they're not super good, but Benedict Mathurin is shooting 42% from the three-point line. And he's averaging 21 a game. So you got to think that some teams might want him. And I think that there would be some value there. You look at like the Brooklyn Nets. I don't know what you'd get in return. Maybe Nicholas Claxton for a Benedict Mathurin era. And then you hold Nicholas Claxton until next season when he can play with Tyrese Halliburton. Another team that could use a Benedict Mathurin would be the Kings if they could get involved. Maybe the Pacers want, some of the talent that the Kings have, some veterans to fill up that locker room over there, as well as they have some exciting pieces in like a Keon Ellis. They have Neat Clifford sitting over there. They have a Keegan Murray and Sabonis. Sabonis is a former Pacer at one point anyways. So who knows? Benedict Mathurin, though, he's got a lot of value, and you have to at least test the market to see what you're getting calls back for. I just hope that they don't fall into a situation where they're getting like a Michael Porter Jr. in return, because I don't think Michael Porter Jr. on the Pacers is pushing the needle. LA Clippers. John Collins is the name listed here, but we might have to talk about Kawhi Leonard. Also, it says literally here, Kawhi Leonard and James Harden are both basically impossible to trade, and moving either of them would amount to a concession that this era of LA Clippers basketball is a failure and be over. But John Collins, is he going to provide a lot of value for a lot of different teams? I don't know. Like, who wants John Collins? I guess a team like, I can't even think of one off the top of my head. You would assume that they would just have to eat something. They would just lose the trade if they're giving him up in any form. It doesn't say that he would be. Collins will have to shoot better than his current 31% from three if the Clips want any serious offers, but they could convince themselves that the guy who put up 19 points and 8 rebounds, hitting 39.9% of his triples with the Jazz, is still there somewhere. I don't know. I don't know what team would want John Collins. I can't find the right fit off the top of my head. I mean, maybe like the Grizzlies, I guess, but that would just be adding, maybe like the Heat, because they would just be trying to keep that Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo still alive. I don't think the Clippers move off of John Collins unless it's part of some mega deal. Los Angeles Lakers, Gabe Vincent is the name listed here. I think more like a Jared Vanderbilt or a Rui are more likely to be traded. They're saying Rui Hachimura's shooting is too valuable and Jared Vanderbilt's contract runs into 2027-2028. But they're saying Gabe Vincent is the most logical mid-tier salary that the Lakers might consider trading. I also think they shouldn't count out Austin Reeves. Because, although, yes, it's one of LeBron's last few years, Austin Reeves, though, I don't love the pairing of him and Luka too much. It's almost like Luka and Jalen Brunson, which at the end of the day didn't amount to winning a championship. Didn't even amount to them making the finals. So, and also you have to think about the future with Luka. You're going to need to recoup some assets somewhere, and Austin Reeves could be that piece. And I'm surprised that they didn't have Dalton Connect listed here either, because Dalton Connect is probably a more likely piece to be traded than a Gabe Vincent. They're probably going to be paired together, to be honest, but Dalton Connect has, he was a first-round pick a year ago. They tried to trade him and then backed out. And if I'm Dalton Connect, I don't want to be playing for crap with a team that just tried to trade me. So he probably isn't putting his best foot forward so he could just be, he probably isn't in a great mindset over there in LA. They need to move off of him. Next up here, I have the Memphis Grizzlies. It is Ja Morant. I've talked about that, him being tied to the Sacramento Kings. They go chase names. It just kind of makes sense for him to move off the Grizzlies, the Grizzly to move off of him. I went and saw Kings Grizzlies. Ja Morant didn't play. Zach Edey looked dominant. I mean, yes, it was the Sacramento Kings, didn't have their starting centers playing or anything like that, but, it's just interesting to think about him, Ja Morant, being somewhere else. Teams that could, he could be in that carousel of guards where he goes to the Hawks, Trae Young goes to the Hornets, LaMelo goes to the Cavs, Darius Garland goes to the Grizzlies, something like that. Some sort of mixture. I'm sure that that's what's going to kind of happen, where if Ja gets traded, they're going to get a guard in return. And maybe a Ja Morant for a Darius Garland swap might not be too bad. I mean, I'm just spitballing ideas here. Or a Trae Young for Ja Morant. I don't know. Ja Morant loves to play pick and roll. Jalen Johnson's good on the pick and roll. They got Onyeka Okongwu there. Kristaps Porzingis is decent at pick and pop. You could have something there with Ja going to the Hawks. And I kind of like that. Honestly, I'm talking myself into it. Ricochet, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Ja Morant, Kristaps. I'm kind of talking myself into that idea. Because it's clear as day that the Hawks want to win games, but it's not with Trae Young. The Miami Heat, Simon Fontecchio, I mean, yeah, he's cool. Shooting a career high 48% from the field. Their only mid-tier player. I'm surprised that we're not looking at possible Tyler Hero trades here. As Tyler Hero probably has, or even like Andrew Wiggins, because I think a lot of teams would want a wing like Andrew Wiggins. I could see somebody like Tyler Hero would be a good fit alongside a defensive kind of guard. Or even, I have always been on board with Tyler Hero as a six man. He is somebody that should come off the bench. Put him behind Luka. Let him roll with the second unit. Right? That's just, again, spitballing ideas. But maybe Ja goes to the Heat. and you send, Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, Simone Fontecchio over to the Grizzlies in exchange, some sort of package like that. And then you have Ja, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo. I don't love the trio there, but I don't even love the duo right now of Bam and Tyler Hero. They got to make some moves. The Milwaukee Bucks, this one's obvious also. It's Giannis, the most likely name to be moved. Now, what I will say, keep an eye on guys getting moved like Kyle Kuzma. Even like I could see them moving somebody like a Miles Turner even, because the Bucks, what they have done is at least tried to keep Giannis happy. Giannis has made it adamant in the past that he doesn't necessarily want to leave the Bucks, but at the same time, it's just at some point you try and it's just not working. The Bucks could look to trade him away to go gain some of their assets back. Maybe you go, like I think we talked about in the past, Giannis going to like the Hawks for Trae Young, Ricochet, and picks, and it being a lot of their own picks back. Because when they're bad, they're going to be bad. They're going to rebuild. They're going to get their draft picks high, and then they make something happen. I'd also be interested to see what kind of package the Timberwolves could put together as far as Randall, Gobert maybe even involved, Dante DiVincenzo, Rob Dillingham. But I want to see, I'm just trying to think of duos that might work together. And Giannis and Anthony Edwards, I could see them making something happen there. Because if Anthony Edwards can play with Rudy Gobert clogging up the paint, then he for sure can play with a guy like an Anthony Edwards. Sorry guys, my camera just died. So we're just going to roll the rest of this video without the camera. Next up here, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves rocking Julius Randle. I just kind of talked about that. He makes a lot of money. They need a point guard. Why not go? I don't really think you need somebody like a Julius Randle on this roster. You need to replenish the Mike Conley there. All right, just switch to the backup cam, so we got this angle. Julius Randle seems like a good fit for a team that is looking to give up a guard. Now, the issue too is does anyone really want Julius Randle with the amount of money he's making? Yes, he's a good player, but is he a championship contention player? That's what we have to keep reminding ourselves about, is he a championship contention piece that a lot of teams would want? And I also don't know who would be looking to grab him, because let's look at our championship contention teams. The Nuggets, they don't want somebody like Randle. The Sixers, they're not a championship contention team, but I was just thinking people that need fours. The Sixers, I mean, even if we just go from top to bottom, the Pistons, they don't want Randle. The Celtics, they don't want Randle. In the West, the Warriors, they don't want Randle. The Lakers, they don't want Randle. I mean, he just makes too much money. I think it's just kind of ugly. And then you would also, the Wolves are looking for a point guard. So then you'd think the big point guards out there, LaMelo. Would the Hornets really want Randle in return? Randle and Rob Dillingham? No. The Hawks, they're not going to want Julius Randle. The Cavs, no. The Grizzlies, Ja Morant, you're not going to pair Jaren Jackson, Zach Edey, and Randle together. That's terrible. I mean, maybe you can go talk to the Kings and be like, hey, you guys want a young asset like a Rob Dillingham. What if we gave you Randle Dillingham for, a Levine, and then you throw in Keon Ellis in there too? That could be a possibility where they're just the Kings just eat that money and let him go. I just, just another tough name to really look to trade. Next up here on this list is Trey Murphy III for the Pelicans. He is probably the most valuable asset that is here. I think that whatever team gets him, you might, like, that just instantly, especially if he goes to the Spurs, we might have to put some money on the Spurs winning the championship this year. That's a crazy thing to think about. Trey Murphy being the perfect piece for them. And I don't think it would take a lot of your core to get it done. You'd give up, like, the main thing you'd be looking to give up would be like Carter Bryant, Keldon Johnson, a pick or two. That might get the deal done right there. Now, the Pelicans need to capitalize, and I can't say this like harsh enough, that the capitalization that could happen here, because look at Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges got a lot, right? Mikal Bridges got 5 first-round picks, and it was right before the deadline. So maybe you could sneak a Carter Bryant and be like, yo, we want Keldon Johnson and 3 first-round picks. On top of that, maybe a Jeremy Sohan in there. But I don't think that you can walk away with just getting fleeced. If they get fleeced, especially them not owning their first-round pick this year, if they get fleeced, like, that's just move the team to a different city. Move them to, bring them to Seattle. Move them over to Las Vegas. Something else has got to happen. The New York Knicks. I think they have Pacome listed here. I don't think that he's that guy. I think it would be like Karl Anthony Towns would be the guy that would be listed. I think you could even say OG to really upgrade the roster quite a lot. That would be, honestly, the only way you would trade those guys is if you're in the Giannis sweepstakes. Because I don't think you'd be getting... I don't know if they'd want to be involved in the Giannis sweepstakes, but they're going to be involved because it's Giannis. So I like that better, of talking about the idea of, like, you get Giannis, the Bucks get back Cat, but then you'd have Cat and Miles Turner, which wouldn't be too bad now I'm thinking about it. You'd have Cat, probably get OG back. They don't really have a whole lot of young assets here. They don't have a lot of picks either, because they gave up 5 to get Mikal Bridges. I don't think that Giannis would go to the Knicks unless the Bucks were like, we're going to go where you want. We're going to send you where you want. And then he's like, yeah, send me the Bucks. Or send me the Knicks. Next up here, we have 9 teams left. The Oklahoma City Thunder being Isaiah Hartenstein. This, I don't think they're going to make any improvements, right? They're obviously very good. They have 1 loss on the season. They're insanely good. On top of that, the only way that they would move off of guys is if they took a big swing and went and got Giannis. And it would be Isaiah Hartenstein, Cason Wallace's of the world, Chet's of the world, etc., to get Giannis. And I don't think that the Thunder would look to break up that core to go get Giannis, especially since they just came off a championship and now they have 1 loss on the season. Orlando is next up. Jonathan Isaac is the name listed here. I think you could look at like Anthony Black as well. Pairing those two together, just Jonathan Isaac's money on top of like Anthony Black's value, you would go get your point guard that you need, or even a center, because I think that could be the bigger problem there. If they go get, maybe they get involved in a 3-team with the Knicks and the Bucks, and you have Cat going to the Magic, you have Anthony Black and Jonathan Isaac going to the Bucks, and you have Giannis going over to the Knicks, something like that. Or, I mean, if you're Orlando and you're taking on Cat money, I mean, yeah, you'd be fine with that, because like you have Wendell Carter, Cat, Paolo, Franz, Jalen Suggs. You'd be pretty chill with that. I kind of like that actually for them. So, Jonathan Isaac, yeah, sure. He's on that list. 76ers, they have Kelly Oubre listed. I mean, the big thing with the 76ers is like, if Embiid's not 100% healthy, why is he playing? Right? And maybe what it is like, we're never going to get 100% Embiid anymore ever in his career. He's turning into this Greg Oden, Yao Ming-esque, where when he had so much potential, we saw a small sample size of it, and then it's just gone. We're probably not going to see a whole lot of flashes of that anymore, just because he's not healthy. His knees are shot. So, yeah, sure, Kelly Oubre, but I think that you could possibly look at moving off of Embiid. You really locking into Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, the Jared McCains of the world on this roster, really going young. I think it could be time. I'm ready for that. I'm ready for Embiid to be elsewhere. I'm also ready for the Sixers to kind of turn a page, because they've tried so much, and they had it there for a second. They were one doink shot away from making the finals, right? The Raptors, 2019. That Kawhi Leonard shot. The Phoenix Suns, it's Nick Richards, sure. I mean, cool. They're just in this awkward spot right now. I think you could also, like, Grayson Allen seems like he has quite a lot of value. Yeah, Royce O'Neal, Dylan Brooks, those guys could also be in the mix. I think, like, Devin Booker, unless he says that he wants to be traded, he's not getting traded. He's a Phoenix Sun for life. He's going to go down as the greatest Phoenix Sun to ever play basketball. And I stand by that. That's over Charles Barkley. That's over Steve Nash. That's over Shaq, if you want to say that. Over the Kevin Johnsons of the world, etc. It is Devin Booker. What he's done for the Phoenix community and everything is above all. Here we have the Portland Trailblazers trading Robert Williams III. You kind of have to assume that they're probably going to trade a center. Donovan Clingan being very, your young asset that you're looking to build around. You have interesting pieces here on this roster too. Jeremy Grant, if he can provide value for a team, he just makes a lot of money. Drew Holiday as well, if he could provide value for a team. Damian Lillard is going to stay for the rest of his career, I'm sure, because the grass wasn't greener on the other side. So he's like, all right, I'm good. So I don't know. Robert Williams ain't going to bring a ton of value in, but could bring you something interesting. Sacramento, Keon Ellis is the name listed. I also think you have to say, of course, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, because those guys, we just talked about that on a video where those guys are also on the chop block. The Kings need to just get value. Just get decent value for players, get picks, hopefully hit on picks. Don't draft the same position 6 freaking years in a row like you always do, where you draft point guard after point guard after point guard. I mean, none of those point guards are on the roster anymore. See what the value is of Sabonis. See what the value is of DeRozan, what the value is of LaVine, what you can get for Keon Ellis, those guys. And then just kind of, I also think Keegan needs to be involved. I think that he provides value as well. And I think they should move off of him also. But, that's just me. San Antonio Spurs, Kelly Olynyk is the name listed. I think it's more like Keldon Johnson. I think you need to be looking to upgrade that, especially since you're tying yourself to like a Trey Murphy where you need a 3-and-D wing. That's the perfect guy that you're looking for. The Pelicans aren't wanting Kelly Olynyk. Like for Trey Murphy, no. They're going to want Carter Bryant. They're going to want Keldon Johnson. They're going to want something in return. And plus, I mean, yeah, like, sure, Kelly Olynyk's been traded all over the map. He's played for the Celtics. He's played for, I think he's been a Pelican at one point. He's played for Utah. He's played all over the map. So he's been a Rocket, I think. He's been everywhere. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of there. Let's just move past that. Toronto Raptors, they're saying RJ Barrett. Yeah, maybe. I think, that's really, you're saying, hey, the core of Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett, quickly, Scotty Barnes isn't fitting. So one guy's got to go, upgrade it. RJ Barrett looking like the guy that could go. Also, you could get in the mix for those disgruntled stars. The Giannis, because RJ Barrett's an interesting piece. So maybe the Bucks, you say, hey, we got Quickly, we got Grady Dick, we got RJ Barrett. What do you want? And the Bucks are like, oh yeah, RJ Barrett sounds cool. And, they also have some rookies here, some young assets here. There could be something interesting. And then you have like Giannis and Scotty Barnes sounds disgusting together on the court, but you know, I didn't love Kawhi and Pascal together on paper, but they made it work. So, Lauri Markkanen for the Utah Jazz. This has been a name that's been in rumors forever. We got 2 more teams. It's Utah and then, of course, I think the Wizards. Yeah. Lauri Markkanen could go to the handful of teams. I think Detroit could get involved in that. I think Golden State could get involved in that. You could see, like, there's a handful of teams that could go after him. The Lakers are always going to be involved in something like that. I think that the Mavericks should get involved in that, seeing that they have, to pair alongside Cooper Flagg. I think Lauri Markkanen would be a good fit alongside him. But yeah, I would like to see Lauri over with like Detroit. I'd like to see what that happens over there. I'd like to see him over in like Orlando, see what happens over there. I think there's a decent amount of teams. Even like if the Cavs were to ship out Jared Allen for a guy like Lauri Markkanen, that could be interesting as well. I know he's been a Cav before. But yeah, you could be looking at, okay, Evan Mobley, Lauri Markkanen, Donovan Mitchell. Who knows? Like if you trade, Donovan Mitchell at that point. I mean, if you trade Darius Garland at that point, but Lauri Markkanen can bring in some decent value, as well as Walker Kessler needs to be listed here as well, because the center carousel, just like the point guard carousel, is probably going to happen at the trade deadline. Last but not least, we have the Washington Wizards, CJ McCollum. Yeah, it's just get rid of the veterans, go younger, gain young assets, right? Somebody will probably pick up CJ. He makes a decent amount of money, I'm pretty sure. McCollum makes $30 million this season, so who would want something like that? I mean, you could say, yeah, sure, the Lakers could use some depth there. They might, but then you're paying $30 million for a guy to come off your bench. Chris Middleton's also an option for them to look at moving off of, but he makes $33 million. It's just, it's kind of ugly. It's kind of ugly with the amount of money those guys make. Maybe you can fleece somebody, though. You can get involved in some 3-team deals where you're giving out, just to make money match. So that's always interesting. So, all right, guys. Well, this has been one player traded from every single NBA team by the deadline. I'm sorry about the camera malfunction with the other camera. I'm sure that the battery just died or whatever. So, all right. Well, without further ado, it's been another Beyond the Arc episode, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.